Paris lockdown, day 8 and day 7 a little bit. Now, if you, like me, are one of those people that loves going to the cafe, you read at the cafe, you meet your friends at the cafe, you work at the cafe, but you can't go anymore because of lockdown and it's very frustrating, I have a hack for you. What you do is you make yourself a wonderful cup of coffee and you put it in a cup or a mug. I've got one of these mugs from a coffee chain in London, but it doesn't matter. You can use any cup. And then what you do is you go onto YouTube and you search for sounds of the cafe or background sounds of the cafe, okay? Like this. And then you close your eyes and you imagine you're at the cafe with your friend or with Orson Welles or Sophia Loren or whoever, and yeah. Today is day 8 of the lockdown, but I do have a clip for you of day 7 because every evening at 8 p.m. in Paris, in France, people open their windows and start clapping those who work in the health sector, the nurses, the doctors, etc. Have a look at this. There you are. Thank you everybody who sent me their daikon recipes yesterday. Yes, I still haven't used the daikon, but I will soon because they won't last forever. So thank you, Amanda Kuo. Chinese beef stew of daikon. Well, I'm vegetarian, but nice. Konstantin Tushkov. And yes, a daikon salad. Okay, gives a recipe for that. Toy Lu Belian, vegetarian couscous with daikon. Shulan Accord, pickling. English Luhansk gives a nice recipe of vinegar and olive oil and other stuff. And Madhumita Das, Stephanie Chong, Claudio Hidalgo, Isa Dauche. Douche, not sure how to pronounce that. IXV184. Operation Umbrella gives a Japanese recipe for daikon. Thank you very much. I will do something with them. Might involve some kind of pickling because there's just too much and they have to last a long time. Okay, let's do your grammar and vocabulary questions. Okay, are you ready? Let's go. Let's have a look at the first question, and that's from Aura Cubillo, who asks, what's the difference between should and ought to? Yes, that's a good question. And sometimes they are interchangeable. They're very similar meanings. I should go, I ought to go. By the way, ought to is what's called a semi-modal verb because it does operate like a modal, but it keeps the to infinitive. I ought to go. But this can be shortened with an informal contraction to oughta, just like gonna, wanna, etc. Gotta, okay? I ought to go. However, there is a slight difference in meaning in that should is more subjective. It's my opinion, it's my recommendation. So I could say, you should eat more daikon. It's very important. It's healthy and it's good for you. You should eat more. Or for example, you should stay at home. It's very important because of the coronavirus. You should stay at home. It's my opinion. However, ought to is more objective. It implies that there's some rule or obligation, or that there should be a rule or obligation. So, for example, we ought to stop having picnics now because of the coronavirus. We're not allowed to do that. We should go home. Or there ought to be a law against men urinating in the street. So because of this reason, ought to can sometimes sound a little bit more emphatic than should. Marco Minecci. Marco from Northern Italy, he asks, can you explain the difference between mandatory and compulsory? Interesting. Yes, there is difference. Mandatory means legally binding. Legally binding. There's a law that insists that you do this thing. Okay, so for example, wearing a helmet on a motorbike is mandatory. In France at the moment, carrying a piece of paper that states why you're going out is mandatory. If you don't have it, you get fined €135. Compulsory means essential. At school, learning history was compulsory. For many jobs, a knowledge of English is compulsory. It's not a law, but it is an essential part of the job. Okay, and there are some cases where you have a fixed expression with compulsory or with mandatory. So, for example, in compulsory education, you say, well, it is mandatory, but we don't say that. We say compulsory education. I guess it's also essential, but we have to choose one, so we choose compulsory. Alina Ionescu asks, if you don't hear someone properly, how do you react in British English? Do you say again, or pardon me? Yes, an interesting question. I think you can say pardon me. It sounds a bit old-fashioned. If you want to say it, that's fine. It doesn't sound a bit old-fashioned, but why not? Say again. I don't say that, but it's perfectly correct. If you want to say again. What do I say? I'm not sure. I think I'm a bit rude. I just say, what? Well, what was that? What was that? Excuse me? Oh, excuse me, what was that? Sorry, what was that? Or something like that. I probably don't say pardon me, but it's okay. Next question. Nico Diaz Silva from Chile, living in Vienna, and asks, what's the difference between dream of and dream about? Yes, dream of or dream about. Good question. Now, dream of is about your desires. Your desires. I dream of seeing the world. I dream of going to the cafe again. Dream about is literally what you dreamt in your sleep. Last night I dreamt about Doris. I dreamt about you last night and I fell out of bed twice. Proud Pagan from India says, you are not answering my questions. Okay, calm down. I am answering your questions. I get a lot of questions. I get really a lot of questions, and I do read them all, but I can't answer them all. But yours is a good one, and I have got to eventually. So here's the answer. And it is, in fact, a very difficult one. One of the most difficult I've had, because it made me stop and think. Because actually, I wasn't sure of the answer. I had to think about it for some time. And what he asked is, which is correct? $10 million have been spent on the project so far, or $10 million has been spent on the project so far? Interesting question, yeah? What's the answer? Well, I believe the answer is it takes singular. So it's $10 million has been spent on the project so far, because you're thinking of it as a single sum. So it will take the singular verb, has, not have. But if you're counting individually, then it's going to take a plural. $10 are on the table. $10 are on the table. You're talking about individual dollars, not all of them collectively. Let me give you one more example to make it clearer, okay? Those £5 million on the table are for me. Is that correct? Those 5 million? No, it isn't, because you're talking about the £5 million as one sum, one thing. So it's all got to be in the singular. That £5 million on the table is for me. Thank you, proud pagan, for your very interesting question. Well, that's it for today. As always, keep sending in your grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation questions, and I'll try and tackle as many as I can. Stay healthy and see you soon.